Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Berlinale Talents 2014. It's my great pleasure to introduce you this session, Taking the Lead, Nina Hoss. And please welcome our dear moderator, Peter Cowie.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nina Hoss is perhaps the perfect role model for any aspiring actor because she has been to drama school here in the city. She has become a member of the Deutsches Theater. She's been on the stage many times. She's done television work, but most of all, she's been successful on the big screen with a number of films made by directors of the so-called Berlin School, notably Christian Petzold. And in 2007, she won a Silver Bear here for Yeller, and she went on to make Jericho and Barbara with him, and she's now in post-production with his next film called Phoenix. She's just completed a film called A Most Wanted Man, directed by Anton de Corbijn, and that is based on a novel by John le Carré, and unfortunately features one of the last performances by Philip Seymour Hoffman. So we're very happy that Nina's here this afternoon to discuss her craft and her art with us. So please welcome Nina Hoss. So Nina, we have extracts from 5 of your films today, but before we show the first one, perhaps you could say when you were at school, did you want to be an actress very young, or what made you join Drama Academy here?
Well, I guess it had something to do that my mother is an actress and later became a director, head of a theater, and so on. So I was always, I think as a baby even, I was on a blanket in her rehearsals watching the actors work. So I was kind of always in that world, but mainly theater, only theater basically. And I pretty much at the age of 5, I always wanted to go on a stage, sing something, and so I was not afraid of it. And somehow something, I don't know, I was always fascinated by actors. And then pretty early it was decided that that's what I want to do.
And looking back at your time at the Ernst Busch Drama School, what did you get from that? Would you recommend young actors to go to drama school, or can that be skipped, do you think, looking back?
Well, I don't know, because I mean, there are many examples of film actors who have never attended an acting school, and they're brilliant, So if you have a great talent, you can also, I guess, learn while doing. But I made the experience, especially if you want to work on stage, I would recommend to have that, how do you call it, that you go to acting school, because you can test yourself and learn without already a public audience that judges you. And so you can make mistakes, you fail, you stand up again, and you... Also, it's a great time. As a student, it was fantastic 4 years for me to be on that school, and you learn dancing and fencing and whatnot. So it's everything, and you work on one scene for 6 weeks. I mean, then when you're out in the professional world, that's when you do a play. You will never have the time to work on each sentence so thoroughly, like in these days. And so it educated me to be able to have a script or a playwright and work on it on my own without having to always be dependent or rely on the director or my fellow colleagues. So for that reason, I think it gives you self-confidence as an actor, having been in acting school. That's at least what I can say for myself.
Were you already there when you made The Girl Rosemary in 19...
Yeah. I was in my first year of acting school. And in those days, that has changed, I think, sadly, but you weren't allowed to go out and shoot or do theater performances or whatever in those days. So, but they did give me that chance because I asked for it, because I said, Mensch, Bernd Eichinger, it was a very famous producer who sadly passed away, but And it was a brilliant script. It was an amazing part for, I was 19, you know, or 20 then. And it was just something, I said, I can't not do it, but please let me come back. and then they agreed.
And then several years passed, and you're in White Masai, which is 2005, I think.
Three even.
Three, maybe shot in three, but okay.
Yeah,
and,
maybe.
that was one of the most demanding parts you've ever had, I would think, because you were on location for 8 weeks in Africa. Do you tell us about that, how you all survived, how big the crew was? And
I can't even tell how many people. I guess it was 130 or 100. It was huge. And we lived in the bushes with the Samburu warriors. It is a story about a white Swiss lady a true story, going to live with a Maasai and marry him, and then about her experiences there with him and the Samburu tribe. And we actually lived with them in the bush, as you said, for 8 weeks, and in a camp. I was in a tent for 8 weeks, and we pretty much experienced what life is. Other than we didn't live in these huts, you know. That was a bit. I was once in there. There was one scene when I'm heavily pregnant and the baby's about to come and all that, and they built this hut, and we were in it. And I remember it was raining these worms, you know, because it was fresh cow poo. Yeah. And I just said, oh, no, I can't. That would be really too much. So we didn't experience that. We had tents at least. But
that shows in the film. It has an authentic quality.
Yeah.
Both the acting and the shooting, everything is very authentic in that.
Yeah, it helps you. At least for me, I'm very curious. I think I'm a curious person, and I love getting to know people from different cultures, see how they live, that's what I really love about my profession, that it brings me to places like that, and I can have a little glimpse on how people live and how their outlook is on life, and you actually feel like I can be here because I'm working. You know, as a tourist, I would never go for 8 weeks there, and they wouldn't want me there, and why should I be there? But like that, you really make experiences that you possibly couldn't have without being an actor or a director. Or so, yeah. And it really helps for the part. It helps you, just like especially if you shoot chronologically, then you can just experience it with her. In a way, you know, you are naive at the beginning, and the more you work with them, the more you know. And sometimes they also get on your nerves, like it happened to her, and all these things. And that really helped me a lot. Yeah. Or you feel how difficult it was. You know?
And did the script evolve during those 8 weeks? Were there changes as a result of all being together in location? Were there any scenes where you suddenly it started raining when it should have been sun, and so you had to change?
Yeah, that always, I never really experienced that you change the book. Sometimes you have to improvise, and maybe it was meant to be outside, but then you maybe find somewhere a roof of a hut or whatever, and then you do it there because it's raining and so on. But you don't, you hardly ever change the lines or anything like that. That's, yeah.
Well, let's see the first extract, which shows you, after a rather brutal initiation, you decide to make up with your friend, the tall, handsome Maasai warrior, and you follow him to his village, which is quite an experience. You gradually follow him into the bush. So, can we have the first extract, please? Was that film shot in continuity or all over the shop, really?
Yeah, almost, yeah. We had the chance to shoot it in continuity. But when I watched it now, I was like, oh God, what did she do? Why did she do that? Yeah, I felt like that also. But I mean, these people were so nice and so welcoming and made it really easy for us to portray that story.
What part of Africa was it?
In Kenya.
In Kenya.
Yeah, so we also shot parts in Nairobi and Mombasa,
Right.
but mainly there, somewhere in the bush.
The main actor came from Burkina Faso, I think, originally. Yeah.
And he had quite a journey with that part because he was there, I think, 6 weeks before we all came. Because people from Burkina Faso, he told me, they are more strong within their bone structure and all of that. So he was quite a strong man. And the Sambus are thin, as you saw, really thin. It's the tribe where you sometimes see photos of them where they jump. That's very high up, you know. So he had to train that, which is really hard. Because there's a scene where he has to jump up. It's like a competition, who jumps the highest. And so they trained all that with him, and he was on a very strict diet and all of that. So learned the language, and well, as for him, it was really tough work.
Moving on to Yella, this was made by Christian Petzold, who in a way has come to symbolize with others the so-called Berlin School of Directing. Do you want to say something about the Berlin School? I think Gold was directed by Thomas Ausmann. He's also a member of that school, in quotes. Is it informal, or is it are they all friends? How did that come
they
about?
are friends, and I mean there is something like a group, I would call it, because some of them, show first drafts of, well, maybe not first drafts of scripts, but sometimes they exchange, they're in exchange of what they're doing and working on, and bounce off ideas, I guess. All these. So there are meetings. So in a way, there is a group. But this definition, Berliner Schule, I think is very hard to have a grip on, because I think they're also very different directors. Yeah. You know, it's just maybe a certain style of a certain way of aesthetics, a certain way of exploring and telling something about our country, and that's maybe something that they have in common, you know. But I think they didn't come up with a name. Yeah, right. It was a label. Yeah. A label was needed.
And Benjamin Heisenberg is also a member. I just saw his new film this morning. It's wonderful. It's going to be a huge success. Fantastic film. If you have a chance to see it, it's called Über Ich und Du, Super Egos in English. A real dark horse. It was very well received at the Panorama.
Great. I heard it's a comedy.
Yeah,
yes,
a
not very usual.
Comedy, dark comedy. Yeah, very subtle comedy. Anyway, so going back to Yella, which I think was filmed almost in continuity, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yella?
Yeah. Christian is always taking care or trying to make it possible that mainly all the movies we have done together, we were able to shoot it continuously. Yeah. Not in total. Some things you just can't change. If you have one motive, sometimes you have to start with the end of the movie. You have to, because that's when you are allowed to be in that house.
And how do you, as an actress, how do you cope with that? How do you keep what the character should be in your mind and then go back to another state of mind? I mean, it must be difficult to...
Yeah, I have a huge respect if you have to start with the end of something. It's because you haven't been able to experience the journey with the character. So you have to prepare yourself very well and think of, together with the colleagues and with the director, where would we want to be at the end, you know? And sometimes it's also a big freedom because you can't put pressure on it, on the meaning, you know, because that's as far as you know it, and that's what you have to give. And sometimes that gives a bit of a more lightness, or maybe you would have tried to put more meaning into it after you have experienced the whole journey. So I always try to see it from a positive point of view, but I love it more if I can actually play the end of a movie when I really have experienced the whole thing.
Well, you've really been a central figure in those now, including Phoenix, 4 films by Christian Petzold, right? There's Yella,
6.
Jericho, Barbara, yeah. And from the outset, looking at those films from a foreign perspective, they are all anchored in an everyday reality. Very much, his films are very much today's world, although Barbara is set in around 1980, I guess, in the GDR. But even so, there's a hard, gritty quality. There's not much fantasy or
You think so?
history.
Yella and stuff?
Well, using the word literally, I mean, it's not not like
okay.
Grand Budapest Hotel.
Okay, yeah.
They're anchored in reality, and you seem to be able to interiorize your emotions in all of those films. You don't explode. You very rarely. You don't explode. You keep everything inside, very restrained. But through your features, you express a change of mind, and I think that is part of the success of the films, actually. How does he direct you? I mean, you want to say something about Christian Petzold? How much freedom does he leave you when he directs?
Well, a lot. It's we started with the film Toter Mann, which was a TV production, right. And it was, I think, his first film after Die innere Sicherheit. Right. I don't know the English title. Does anyone know? No, but 2000. It was his first really successful movie, and so I experienced in Toter Mann the way he, because as an actress, I don't know, you also have to know the aesthetics and what the director tries to portray. Mm-hmm. And when I read his scripts, I almost read a novel. Because we don't have so many dialogues in Christian Petzold's movies normally, and so he describes a lot, but not by being very precise in what is needed for the scene. It's more like metaphors. And so you get an idea of the atmosphere he tries to create. And that is something where I start from. So I try to find... in any character I work on, I think, I always try to find a resistance, you know, that you never say anything without maybe a counter feeling inside you, you know. I pretend to be very easygoing right now, but I'm kind of nervous also, you know. So I do say things differently. And maybe I'm more concentrated now than I would be if you meet me outside having a coffee or something like that. So I always look for in the lines, the little lines I have, that I know, is there anything she's hiding? Or is there a general feeling that she would be more outgoing, but she can't because she has to protect herself, like in Barbara, you know? And that works within you. And that's why maybe that's the outcome of it, you know. Well,
there's that marvelous scene at the beginning of Barbara when the camera looks down on you on the bench and you light a cigarette. You've just arrived and you haven't gone up to your appointment yet, but you express everything. You know that this woman is in a state of anxiety somehow, and you don't know why, but it's
anxiety and stubbornness. Yeah, I always felt like in the school ground, you know. No, I'm not going in. Just, you know, I wait 1 minute, I'm going to done. It's this, also this, once you made this step of being a dissident in a state, you know, which takes a lot of courage, you try to be rebellious all the time. You want to poke into that stiffness of the state or the injustice and all of that. So she has both things. Right. And again, so I have to decide, what do I portray when? Yes, when the fear, when the, you know, being, stubborn or you know, angry or something. So, and these decisions, I think, you have to do them yourself. And I pretty much do it by being very well prepared. I need to be very well prepared before I go into a movie. Which means I mainly look for things, I do research, I read a lot, if there's anything to read about, like the time or something like that. And so these are the facts. I have them in my mind, but then I also look for the atmosphere that I feel surrounds the character. And I can do that with music, I can do that with paintings, with art in general. I always have lots of postcards or something. Yeah. Just if I need a certain inspiration, then I know I'm surrounded with things that have something to do with my character.
Right.
And then when I start shooting, I forget about it. I try to be so well prepared and knowing what I try to portray with that character that I then can be totally open and free to what's there. Because sometimes you have an idea and it doesn't work. It just doesn't. And then you can't be always thinking, it would have been so nice. It was a great idea. So let go. Just look what your colleague brings. His eyes tell something really different. He decided to portray it differently from what I thought would be good, maybe, or what I hoped for. And it doesn't matter. Maybe that's better, So because I had prepared myself, I can experience it. That's what I'm actually looking for. That's the fun of it, that I can experience things, different lives throughout my characters.
Well, we'll see a clip from Yella now, and I chose this one because up until this point in the film, you could be dismissed as just a pretty face, and then suddenly in this scene, you reveal that you have a skill as an accountant, and that you're no fool, and that you've seen that there's a scam going on. And I think it's a very good example of your craft as an actress, that you express things little by little through your face. So can we have the next clip, please?
Narisch fest, wie hoch der Umsatz
quite a long take, interrupted, but you had to do that probably in one long take, did you? When you were talking like that.
Yeah. I think so. I can't quite
And
remember.
you have this sense of foreboding. I've forgotten that when the glass drops down and it goes through all the movie, doesn't it? As though you have a sense of disaster that's coming. In your sense.
Yeah, it's like something or someone or whatever that is, we don't know, calls her.
Yeah.
And lets her, like, she thinks she loses her ability to hear, or it's like she's underwater, or because she was underwater at the beginning of the movie. And so, and the raven is calling sometimes. And so, yeah, I mean, the movie's out, that death is waiting for her now. So that's what is the irritation throughout the movie.
Did the Silver Bear you won here for that performance, did that accelerate your career? Did you get offers? Did that really change your status?
I never know with prizes. I just enjoy them, and I'm very happy. You know, it's great to receive prizes for what you've done, because it's somehow the only recognition you get for a movie. You know, you get great reviews, which is hopefully you get them. That's very good. It makes you feel good. But to win a prize, it makes you just very happy that what you try to achieve is being seen, and they find it award worthy. Yeah. But if it really changes your career, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think maybe more people are aware of you. That for sure. Yeah.
In a way, a film like Barbara, which won the Silver Bear for Christian Petzold, but not for you, probably accelerated your career more than something like Yella. Because Barbara was so much more widely distributed and reviewed around the world. Yeah. Now, Jericho must have been shot very soon after. I mean, it came out the next year, didn't it? In 2008, 1 year later than
after Yella.
Yeah. Again, a contemporary story of you're living with a Turkish man who has set up a food distribution company, and you fall in love with a man who comes to help out with that company, and together you sort of decide to get rid of him. And there are a lot of tensions in that film, subterranean, I mean, subtle tensions under the surface in the hall, and the I think the three actors work very well together. Your Turkish lover and the new lover, they worked extremely well. There's a subtlety in the exchanges. Was that a happy shoot for you? Was that a good shoot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was also difficult because the characters were difficult. You know, and we had to portray these tensions, and if it's three, there's always
and you
one
weren't very
on the
sympathetic. Yours is not a
No.
very sympathetic role. Actually.
No. Yeah, but I don't care. You know that sometimes the unsympathetic parts are the best. Also, you know, I'm on stage. I often portray very unsympathetic women. Maybe on the first look, I always try to bring something that you understand how you become someone like that. You know, it's also a sort of battle mode or what they're in. Yeah, that makes them maybe a bit unsympathetic, and that's the same with her, because she didn't have a very funny life up till that point, and so she's also very defensive immediately. So she has a hard, how do you call it, like a shell, something, and or an armor on. And now she has one chance to, with this other man, kind of experience something like lightness, love, but she has to do something very cruel to get there.
In both Yella and Jericho, and to some extent Barbara, you're in a very male-dominated world, aren't you? And you gradually have to emerge. You gradually have to force your way through your obstinacy. You said and certainly in Jericho, we see that. I'm not sure if we're ready, but we're going to see, when you're ready up there, we can see this clip of a dance on the beach, which I think is a very charming sequence, where that's the first time you really feel an attraction to this man, this new man in the life. And it's beautifully directed, I think, that scene. Beautifully directed. Could we have the next clip, please? Do you usually have a good rapport with the cinematographer on a film like that? I mean, is that important to have good relations with the cinematographer, costume designers, and so on? Do you get involved in that at all?
Yeah, you get involved mainly with the costume designer because you have to create the outside of your character together, and it's very crucial what kind of shoes you're wearing, for example, or what kind of dresses. Are they tight or are they light, and what would the character go for to portray herself? You know, what does she like? Here, for the first time, we had lots of jewelry, and kind of cheap golden jewelry. So because it also portrays where you're from, what you find attractive, so it helps you to already tell something without me having to act anything. And then, of course, I always prefer to have a very good relationship with the cinematographer because he films you. So
Good
and
side,
also with the
bad
light guys, that's also very good if you have a good relationship with them. And but it's the main partners you have, I would say, is maybe the cinematographer, the director, and then makeup and costume. That's they're right on you, you know, and work with you. Yeah.
When you were growing up, did you have any actress who really impressed you and who later you perhaps referred to as an ideal, as a model actress?
Many, you know. Yeah. Sometimes it's also. I mean, I grew up every Sunday. When I grew up, there were only 3 programs on television, and when I was a child, and every Sunday you would see classics. And I wasn't allowed to watch television, but one film on Sunday. And so I grew up with the old Bette Davis films. I was also, a huge fan of James Stewart, of all these, Paul Newman, of not only female actresses, you know. So, but I watched all these classics: Katharine Hepburn, Humphrey Bogart, all of them. They really inspired me. And then later on, it was the French movies. So it was Romy Schneider for sure. And from her, because it seems so obvious, Romy Schneider, but she is an amazing actress. You know, she was, because she lets you look inside the windows. You know, her eyes. She is, or she was able to, give it to the audience as a gift.
Yes.
And that, for example, inspired me to never go under it. You know, you have to. It's very exhausting acting, and you have to give it your all, because otherwise you don't experience anything, and if you don't, then the audience can't. So sometimes you have to go to the dark places, or to the very light places, but you have to look for them.
Apropos of that, does Christian Petzold take many takes of a scene? Is he one of those who takes 10, 15, 20 takes, or is he, say, after 2 takes, that's great, let's do it? One, really?
Yeah.
That shows confidence.
Not the last movie we shot. That required a different way of doing it, because it was, for the first time, really more like... in German, you say Kammerspiel. I don't quite know what you would say in
chamber
English.
play.
Yeah, chamber play. And so with lots of dialogues, and so you have to. Then it's more close to theater. You have to put it in your mouth. You know, you have to really rehearse it quite often, and also be able to try it like that, and then make another take. To just give it another, I hate the word variation, but it is a bit like that. That you had a little sense of, I have to give more into this. So you need more takes. But normally it's one take.
And right at the beginning, you said that there are very talented actors who've never been to drama school and they're fabulous. But very often, particularly in America, they don't know how to articulate. Someone like Harrison Ford, say, very great presence. You don't understand
That's why
what
you
they're
love
saying.
them also, no?
Yeah, but you articulate extremely well. I think it's one of your strong points that every word of every piece of dialogue that you pronounce is absolutely clear. Was that something you focus on and you always try to do?
Actually, no. But I think it's something that you do definitely learn in acting school. And I also think it also shows something of your character. Does someone speak very clearly? Then I think there are no rules, you know, that's more what I mean. It's you don't fulfill any expectations, you know, because people want to understand you or whatever. I do prefer also if I understand actors, but it portrays something. If you mumble, then your character maybe is too shy to speak clearly and tries to speak. It expresses something again. So it's again a decision you make for your character. And I don't really think about articulation, but I think don't shy away because then it can also mean that the actress doesn't know what she tried, that she had made no decision.
Barbara is set, I'm guessing, 1980, around 1980,
81.
in the GDR. And although it was a big success, I'm sure there are some people who haven't seen it. Perhaps you could say how you and Christian Petzold approached the setting, which you didn't want to put up in lights. This is the GDR in 1980. It's all suggested. You have to guess that as a spectator as you go along, and you have to realize, well, this is not quite today. And then you have to realize this is not quite the West Germany we know. And then little by little, it comes into focus. And you're on screen a vast majority of the time in that film. It must have been very, very exhausting to play that.
Yeah, exhausting, but also exciting to have the chance to be with her for so long. Yeah, and to because I sometimes find it more difficult if you have like a couple of days to portray a character. You know, I'm very. I feel for the actors who come on set for 1 day or 3 days or whatever, because you don't have the chance. You think you need to portray that character in its wholesomeness, where it comes from, where does he come from, what does he want now, and is he funny or sad, or what? You have to make, and you don't have the chance to just let it happen. And with that, if you're always on screen, I know, well, I don't have to put everything in each scene, because in the next scene, you'll see that she's afraid, and then it's something, it's also, again, you have to prepare before you're going into a scene, because otherwise you're too like this all the time, because you want to make the audience understand what you try to portray. So it relaxes me a lot if I know I have time with the character.
Where was that film shot, or where were most of the locations?
Very close to Berlin. Sag mal, jetzt habe ich den Namen vergessen. Gibt's ja gar nicht.
But the water, the sea, where you see the seashore, that was up.
It's such a weird name that I forgot it. Am I crazy? Oh God, I'm sorry, because they probably. Oh God, what's it called?
But I mean, it's very atmospheric, where you do you have to learn to do all this cycling back and forth.
Well, that was on the
trees
East Sea.
are waving, and
that was on the you don't say East Sea, Baltic Sea. Yeah, and that was in another. We shot that at the Baltic Sea.
Yeah.
Actually, I think the same cliff where we shot Jericho.
Okay.
Yeah, Christian likes to go back to the place. It seems, because we shot Barbara and now Phoenix. That's why it's ridiculous that I don't know the name, in the same location, very close to Brandenburg. Also, naja.
Is Phoenix a contemporary film again? Is that also set in the real today's world?
No, 1945.
Oh, really?
He even goes back further.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that'll be a new phase.
Period,
yes.
piece, yeah.
But Barbara is, I think, an extraordinary film, and it's interesting that it's
Kirchmöser, thank you, I got the name. Yeah, okay, I've got it.
but Barbara is a film that's I've seen reactions to outside Germany, and they've always been very positive. So in France and Switzerland, I know people who've seen that film, and they've all been impressed by it. It stands out. It gets very good reviews, but it's a sort of slow-burning film. It hasn't got any big glamour about it, but it's so good, it's so well directed that it's found its niche, hasn't it? You said you had good reactions even in America when you went.
Yeah. No, it was. Also, what I really found the most interesting, maybe even, was the reactions within Germany. Mm-hmm. You know, the reactions of showing the film in the East and in the West. Yeah. And it was like, through that movie, the West got to, not to learn, but experience something else of the East. Sometimes I thought we talk about Thailand or something, you know, where you think, they were amazed of seeing a different kind of, like a colorful GDR, you know, sensual GDR, and all. And the Easterners, of course, were happy to have that side portrayed, you know. But it's also not a movie which says, oh, it was also, you know, it goes along with the nostalgia. So it was just an honest try to portray that time.
And yet it works, it transcends that setting, because people outside Germany who see that film don't necessarily get all the references to the GDR, but the human story is so strong that it just seems to grab you.
You can put it maybe into any kind of dictatorship, you know. You can, this trying to make the world you live in a better place. And when do you fight? When do you give up hope? When Barbara's very alone at the beginning, and at the end she has a partner. Whatever happens with them, but she's not alone anymore. And if you're not alone, you have more.
And she's saved, or she's given the chance to a younger person to live a better life in the West. That's
also. But also, I always thought it's not so much this. Of course, she cares for that girl, and she knows she needs to leave because she's pregnant and she won't survive. She won't have a good life in this country, and Barbara can handle it better than this girl. That's in it as well. But it's also a decision. No, I'm not quite done with this country. And I want to go back, and I have someone I can maybe rely on. At least I want to give it a try, and change things. And that I find very, it takes a lot of courage. I admire it.
Well, this scene shows Barbara being reunited with her lover, who has already established himself in the West and is trying to get Barbara out over the border, and they meet in a hotel, and you begin, once again, you suggest, just so well at the very end of this scene, as far as I recall, you suggest that you have some misgivings, you have some second thoughts about going over to the West, and maybe this is not the right thing to do. Can we have the next clip, please? And then you went to make Gold, which was an altogether change of pace because it was a big, widescreen, Western, shot on location, riding horseback, all those things maybe you hadn't done much in movies before. But where was that shot and how long did that take to do?
We shot it last year. No, 2 years ago, so 2012, in Canada, in British Columbia. Right. And again, it was a bit like the experience in Africa, that we were out there on a ranch for 8 weeks again. We had internet, but that was it. And we were surrounded by coyotes and horses and cats and dogs. And I actually decided I stayed there for the whole of the 8 weeks. Others had to go to civilization, but I just
you're the last survivor, so you had to stay the whole time.
True. Yeah, no, it was amazing because I learned how to ride the horse. Another experience I would have only through my profession I do those things, and then so we literally sometimes we were riding to the set. Mm-hmm. You know, normally you have a car or something, but you were riding to the set, which was amazing. Yeah, it was just an incredible experience being there.
And once again, you mentioned you have an obstinate trait in some of these films. In Barbara, certainly. Well, I think you're very obstinate in that role. You refuse to give in. You refuse first to give in to these macho men who meet you at the beginning and take your money for a gold stake. And then you refuse to give in as gradually people start to fall and die. You refuse. You say we must keep going. We must keep going. Mm-hmm. So you become the central backbone of the whole film, really.
Yeah, because again, I looked at where does this woman come from and in which time does she live in, and other than, of course, I know that she'll survive at the end. So I have to portray her quite strong. But it came from me. She's very pragmatic, Prussian. Mm-hmm. And so you don't, also there's a scene where you have to amputate, do you say that? Amputate a leg. Yeah. And of course you make the decision, do I portray her with tears running down, and because you can't handle the situation then? And I always thought, if you're this pragmatic, and you've probably seen a lot living in New York in those days, 1897, you know, it was grim, gruesome, and horrible. And so they already, she went through a life which was hard. Mm-hmm. So you go through it, you can't give in to your sentiment, because then you're gonna die, you're gonna crumble. So you have to keep it up. The only moment she allows herself to portray her feelings is when he actually dies. Mm-hmm. And but so it's both. It's vulnerability, but strength also. Yeah, it's like an enduring. Yeah.
And she begins as a sort of very well-dressed aristocratic woman who descends from the train with her baggage, and you end with all the niceties of being cast away. You're just surviving. You know, you don't have a shower every day.
Yeah, it was like I also felt it, that I was sometimes rolling in the dirt and things like that. You know, you feel like I'm on a journey. I can free myself from everything that is expected from her. Yeah. So lots of these women. It's a story about the gold rush in the Klondike, and a lot of these women recreated themselves because there was no law yet. Men were too busy to find gold and all of that, so no one could hinder them to become businesswomen or take on a claim as well and look for gold. And so they reinvented themselves, other than being just wives and staying at home. Yeah.
You see that in some of the films your friend James Stewart made, some of those great westerns of the 50s, where they go up to the Klondike and they come to these small towns where often women are controlling the bars with an iron hand. You know, they've learnt to survive really well. Yeah. Well, we've got the final extract from Gold, where you're riding with the last surviving companion. I think there are, how many, 8 people starting out, 8 or 9? Yeah, 8. And they're whittled down to just one when we see this clip. So can we have the final clip, please? I think your body language is so eloquent in that whole sequence. I mean, in the small scene when he puts a coat around your shoulders, the way you hunch forward, and then on the horse. I mean, what kind of instruction did Thomas Alsman give you when you're riding in long shot? Do you have, you sense this sort of complete depression? You're completely down, but you suggest that with the way you ride.
He left it up to us,
Yeah.
really, yeah. I was always saying, well, I guess the longer you ride, the less upright you can sit, you know. So we were looking for this kind of, but individually. So there was no group thing of how we now start riding in which scene. But I was looking for that she gets more and more tired and sick of it also. You lose all your strength the longer you're on the way.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, now it's time for questions from the audience. Now we have the system, as you well know by now, in this stage of the week, that we have microphone or microphones. But please don't start talking until you have the mic. And first, if you can put your hand up, and I will try and direct a mic to you. Does anybody want to ask the first question? Yes, there's two people here in the front row. Do we have a mic?
Hi. Having worked with several directors, is there a sort of a style of collaboration or a style of direction that you find helped you the most?
Well, I always think I love it if a director beforehand, when you talk about the script and the character and what he tries to achieve with the story, I always want to know, what am I part of? You know, what will this whole film be like? What does he want to portray, he or she? And once I know that, and once I'm on set, I really do love to discuss things beforehand, and when you rehearse and shoot, that when the director creates this atmosphere of freedom and allowing us to really just experience things together as the actors, then I always have the feeling that the most comes out of it. I think the more a director pushes towards one certain thing, you get more tense and you try to fulfill something. And I experienced, now if someone would do that, I know now how to get out of that situation, to not let me be pushed into that. But at the beginning, you can get kind of stiff and afraid. So I always think, if you have the feeling, the director gives you a frame within, so you work within that, and then within that you're totally free, and you can. By free, I also mean you don't always have to be, because as you see, I don't with the Berliner Schule at least, you never really act really expressively, yeah. So it's not demanded of you, but so the explosions have to be inside of me, and that, and so I'm looking for that. I don't know if they ask for it, but otherwise I wouldn't enjoy it. So, but I have the freedom to look for those places and to give that to the characters. That's what I enjoy. Yeah. If a director gives me this feeling of trust, yeah.
Another question?
And I would, here,
Yeah.
For me it's very interesting because, I mean, in Germany we know you both from theater and film, of course. And I just saw Little Foxes in Schaubühne. And for me it's very interesting to hear how do you work in theater and how do you work in film? Because for me, I mean, I'm not an actor, but that seems to be a great challenge, because film is such another way to act, as you said, that sometimes you have to the possibility to shoot continuously, but then sometimes not. And how do you do it in theater and in film? Because you're great in both, of course.
Thank you for the of course. No, well, I always think if I would only have shot these kind of movies, it would have been hard for me as an actress, because you are kind of, these characters are always in control of themselves, because they have to. So it's very interior what's happening, that you can never portray like that on a stage because no one sees it. So you can be very subtle. That's what I took from the film on stage also. I do believe if I think clearly and explicitly, then people will sense what I try to tell or what's going on inside of the character. But of course you have another possibility while you're shooting, to just work with your eyes, or a little movement with the head or whatever already expresses so much, or one gesture or all of that. So that's the main difference which I embraced when I shot my first movie, because I was amazed that that is possible, that I don't have to show more. I can just do it with the eyes, and that's very relaxing and gives me a freedom. But on stage,
the close-up doesn't exist in theatre.
No. And also you can't, when you're on stage, it's your full body always, and and you can't put a concentration on your eyes or something like that. Yeah. So, but when I started to answer the question, what I meant was that on stage I can experience a lot. I can have this ride with this character for 2 hours or 2.5 hours, and just really throw myself into it without any safety net, and that gives me a certain freedom for the movies, because I don't have the feeling I have to show it all there. I can experience it on stage. So if it's not being asked, then that's what I meant. It would be kind of you would have a little frustration after a while, because you always think, yeah, but if you're an actor, you have this, or at least I have energy I need to put out there, and there you always, so, which is amazing, but I think, God, without the theater, I would burst.
Another question over here, somewhere in the front.
Thank you. It's a bit along the same lines. You have a bit, sometimes I feel, in a safe haven world when you're on movies, also with these very internal characters, same directors. But the program is called here Taking the Lead, which means you are also a bankable, as they call it, actor. So with you in a main role that could already make the movie worth and being sold. Have you had examples where you were roles offered where you said, well, I just don't want it? I mean, on the stage you are in a large variety of roles with a number of directors. In movies, I could imagine you are getting role offers which you would like to refuse. Have you had that? Have you have examples? I mean, I don't want to hear names, but just stories where you say, it's just not me and I don't want to do it, just because I'm a bankable name.
I don't really think that way, to be honest.
Others would. You wouldn't.
I know, but I don't care. I mean, I get offered a book, and I just check. First of all, is this story interesting? Would I want to watch this movie? Is it? Does it grip my interest? And do I want to learn more about it? And is it written in a way that I'm, that it doesn't give too much away right there, that I immediately understand what it's all about. That's where I'm bored. And I think, well, then I don't want to spend 3 months of my life working on that and trying hard to make it kind of interesting. So I prefer, of course, there are moments where you refuse a part. But I'm not thinking at all about, oh, they only gave me the book because they want my name. To be honest, in Germany, it doesn't work anyway. I mean, it's not because I'm in a movie that it's a great success. I mustn't think that. So it's not in my world of thinking, really.
But you do refuse roles.
Yeah, why do you insist on me?
It is just getting a bit of a feeling like you probably take 1 out of 3, because you are also a bit in charge. You are a bit in charge of taking the lead. Don't underestimate yourself.
Now I see where you're heading. Yeah, you are in charge of your decisions, of course. You are in charge of your career, somewhat. Yeah, as an actress, it's also or actor in general. It is, of course, difficult that you are also in need of offers. You know, that's the other side. So. As long as there are offers, it's a great privilege to be able to refuse them. But some colleagues can't, and you know, because you also have to live from something. And so that is the tricky bit of this profession. So, but right now I'm lucky enough to be in that position to make a decision for myself and the way of my acting career or whatever. Yeah.
Of course, the John le Carré film, Most Wanted Man, demands that you speak English. Was that your first English-speaking role, or?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. It was the first time, but only in English.
Do you have anything else on the horizon that might take you outside Germany?
No.
Not yet.
No, I do actually have one project, very exciting one, but it's difficult to get it financed.
Right.
But we'll see. If it will happen, then it's great.
Another question?
I just want to refer to the question the man just asked. So, if you feel under pressure, what's the window to get out of it? How do you deal with it? Because you said you find a way how to get out of it, so how?
Yeah, but somehow, first of all, I think, you know, if you don't know the director, because it seems like I only ever do movies with Christian, but I have worked with other directors also, and in movies, and sometimes it can happen that you don't get along, and that puts pressure on you, of course, because you need to feel a certain freedom to let yourself go, be open, you know, and. So you find a way. I think, I mean, there is also no rule to things, but I just don't let it get to me so much, you know. That's maybe something as an actress, don't ever take things personally, you know, because then, it's a tough task, but it's some, if you kind of manage that, then you're not getting hurt deep inside, you know, because it is a profession. We have to all work together, and if it doesn't quite match up, it doesn't matter. I still have to look for my the best means of working, you know, the best working conditions that I need, and then you need to make sure that you get them, and that is something you learn. And I'm not there yet. Also, you know, I do fight against my fears sometimes and all these things. It's not that every time, again and again, first time you go on stage and try to say a sentence, you think, oh God, I'm so bad. And, you know, it's always the same. You start always, of course you have these moments and you need them because you start like a baby again, you know, to be able to create something new that you maybe haven't done or experienced before. But that's that. Don't let anyone get to you and try to destroy you or whatever. You know, just that no one should be able to touch your dignity.
So it's useful if you have 2 or 3 directors in whom you have absolute confidence, and so when they come or the agent comes with a script that's attached for them to direct, you must feel a lot more confident about going into that film.
If I know the director.
If you know that, if you feel confident in the director, so something like Christian Paswell, Thomas Melsman, or
no, of course, because also if you don't know the director, but you've seen works of his or her, and you know that's something you're really interested in, then of course you go in with a huge amount of trust into their abilities, and
Ever wanted to direct yourself?
Yeah, but it's a question everyone, once in a lifetime an actor gets asked. Because I think sometimes, of course, when you do it now for quite some time, sometimes you think, why doesn't he say this and that to her? No, it's so easy, it's one sentence. You know, and you just think, oh God, I could do that. But then in the long, I really have a huge respect for anything that is needed to direct a movie and a theater play, you know, the overall thing. But the actual, maybe I can say something that I think, and I mainly have to talk about Germany, of course, that I have the feeling there's a lack of interest in what the actor's job is. So there is a bit missing the language to work on acting, and that is maybe something where I think, man, you should go 1 month to acting school. Just experience it, what it means, and what you need to hear. Like, it goes back to that question, what you need to hear to get where you maybe want someone to be. You know, you don't ever achieve it with pressure, I feel. But you can kind of with certain, it's sometimes technical, you know, and you'll get there very easily, and that's where I think I'm gonna direct. So, yeah.
I've got the mic, the power over here. Being aware of the fact that you shot films with other directors, I still have a question on my mind concerning the collaboration with Christian Petzold. I learned that he uses to rehearse with his actors on set, maybe even before the rest of the crew joins you. And I wonder how these rehearsals would look like, what you do there, because I can't really imagine that you decide for a way to shoot it, then when the rest comes, how far do you go when you rehearse? And what do you...
How far do I go, in what sense?
Do you know what the scene will look like exactly when you've finished rehearsing, or will there be something added when you shoot it?
Yeah. So with Christian, it's always that you start the shooting day, by going through all the scenes that you're about to do on that day, which sometimes doesn't mean we rehearse them in the actual set that we're going to shoot it in, but only up to a certain point. So I would somehow we would never give away everything. We would just have an idea of what we're looking for in that scene, and maybe where our positions are. He wants us to find it, so that we're not being told, well, the camera really needs you to be here and there and there. So that it's something that came out of the rehearsal and what we found together. And then the camera, the DOP is always a part of the rehearsal, and then the team comes in. So we do this rehearsal, we go and have makeup and costume, and then they are in the room deciding, was heißt Auflösung?
Blocking.
Anyone? Blocking? I don't know. Like which shots to take, you know, from which angle and how many, and so that's the way we work with Christian. So it's we do act in the rehearsals, but only up to a certain point, so that you still have a mystery of what's about to happen when the camera's on. Because that's also something, the difference between theater and film. When you hit it and you feel this is it, wow, we got it, in theater, then you need 4 weeks to find that moment again, to be able to reproduce it, because it just happens, and you didn't know why you said it like this, how did we get there, and it's going to be bad for 4 weeks, and then you are you found the moment again. So if you do that in the rehearsal, it's really bad, because we don't have 4 weeks to find the moment again. So that's why in film you have to rehearse, I feel, up to a certain moment where you think, oh, okay, now we need the camera, and that's what we do there in these rehearsals.
Another question? One up there, I see a gentleman up the top on the...
Well, I've got the mic.
Well, 2 mics. I know this happened in How yesterday. It really is ridiculous. It just means it'll be a bit screwed up in the film, but don't worry. Okay, go ahead.
My name is Joseph, and I have 2 questions for you. The first one is about you. In your career, both in your characters or as a person, are there any decisions that you've made throughout that journey that you had to live with, though they were not, somehow they were hurting, somehow they were really challenging in your development, and if there were, how did you deal with them? Or yes, how did you deal with them? The second question is about your first movie, whereby you shot in Samburu, and you say that one of the lead characters came from Burkina Faso, and I'm interested so much to watch the movie. And the question is, as actors, we develop a certain kind of relationship with director. Is there a reason, for instance, like to import talent, or was it a question of sales? Was it a question of talents, lack of talents? Or what was it? If I don't know if you're able to.
I don't quite understand what to import talents in what way?
Well, yeah, I think it means that if the actor came from Burkina Faso, but you were shooting in Kenya, maybe
yes.
there weren't anybody local to take that part.
Or well, there
Yeah,
are
I
no systems.
remember that Hermine was casting a lot of people in Nigeria, I think from all Nigeria, sorry, in Kenya, but from all over Africa, I think. And then the question was mainly, I think, I actually don't know how she found Jackie. I think it was also a matter of being able to talk to each other. That was one thing, and I think she looked really at a lot of actors, and it wasn't anything decided from the very beginning where it has to be someone from Europe or so. You know, I don't think that was the case. She just fell in love with Jackie Ido for this part. You know, I think that was it. And the first question, what was that?
The kind of decisions, if you've ever made a bad decision or a decision that has affected you, have you ever dealt with that, or how do you live with that in your career or maybe as a person?
Yeah, I always think well, there can be moments or experiences that are really unpleasant, and they do hurt you because in this profession you're very dependent. You know, you try to be as free in what you're doing as you can, but still there's someone else who decides, which is the director. So if that is a problem and you feel I can't get through with what I try to do, that is painful. And I had that, and you just survive, really. And it's not very pleasant, and you hope for, you know, but I won't let it destroy my joy of acting. You know, that's what I meant earlier when I say don't let it get personal. You know, I have a passion for what I'm doing, and I can. If you then don't get along, I don't quite understand why. It mainly has to do with vanity, I would feel, and then I just go, nah, okay. Next, you know, it's not very interesting, I think, and it doesn't happen very often, and also a bad experience can really bring you forward in your strength, also in your where you think, no, I am in charge of what I'm doing, you know, and I will take that, and yeah, but while you're in it, it's very painful, yeah.
Nina, believe it or not, an hour and a half has gone by, and you've been, this year's generation of Berlinale talents are very lucky. You couldn't come last year, but you've come this year, and you've shared so much with us, and I think we know you better as a person, we know you better as an actress, and we'll all go and see your next films. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Okay.